Alright, so let's move on to the last case study, which is the fourth case study, and that is the BP Texas City refinery. Right. So let's give you guys a little bit of an overview on what happened to this BP Texas refinery. So this happened on the year of 2005. Explosions and fire had occurred at this refinery. So this accident or event happened specifically at the isomerization unit. All right. So the accident happened during the startup process. Okay. So this startup process it requires a highly flammable liquid to flow into the tower. Okay. That is the basic. That is the first step actually, or that is the entire startup process. This requires a highly flammable liquid to flow into the tower. So the question is, what started the accident? So what are the things that initiated the accident? All right. So the accident started due to the failure of two systems. The first one is the sensors, and the second one is the alarm system. So this sensor refers to the liquid height sensor. So so when there is a failure of this liquid height sensor, it cannot detect when there is excessive flow of liquid into the tower. Plus, when there is a failure of the alarm system, so when the liquid flow excessively over the limit, right? So it cannot detect. Plus it cannot detect. Plus it cannot alert the operators. All right. So that is what happened. So that was what started the accident. Right. Let's move on. So another factor that contributed to the accident was poor communication between the operators of different shifts. So there is two shifts, right? So the morning shift and the evening shift. So the morning shift, it did not inform the evening shift that the startup process was already been done. So what happened is this has led to another startup process being done, all right, which results in an excessive amount of liquid that were beyond the limit containment. So there is another flow of liquid into the tower, all right. So there's more liquid being contained in that particular tower. So a high amount of liquid was being flowed into the drum that exhibit a very high temperature. The liquid was then flowed into the heat exchanger, which create a rise in temperature in liquid being fed to the tower. So this liquid being fed into that tower or into that drum or whatever, this liquid particularly has a very high temperature. So when there is a lot, when there is a lot of liquid being contained, it will cause a rise in temperature. So what happens when there is a rise in temperature in that tower? This will cause the liquid. This has caused the liquid in the tower to boil and expand, which further cause the liquid level in the tower to rise, and will eventually burst. Right? Because the liquid has already go beyond the level, and it will burst eventually. So the next procedure, actually, when the liquid has flowed from the heat exchanger, it would then flow into the drum. So there is a drum is part of the isomerization unit. Okay, but before that, let me show you the here is the layout. So this is the heat exchanger. There's actually three heat exchanger. Here's the first one, second one, and this is the third one. So the accident occurred, the accident first started here, heat exchanger over here, and the drum, that this point that I'm referring to, is this drum. So there's two drum here. So the reflux drum, as well as this blow down drum and stack, right? So this drum, equipped with liquid high sensor and alarm, failed to alert operators. So again, similar to the tower, also there are two failures, which is exactly the same, which is the failure of the sensor as well as failure of the alarm system. Thus, it failed to alert the operators. So what happened next was an eruption of very hot, highly flammable vapor cloud surrounding the entire refinery. So due to this vapor cloud surrounding the entire refinery, explosions and fires were initiated by backfire from an idling diesel truck. So for those of you who don't know the meaning of idling, the word idling, I've googled you. So idling refers to running a vehicle's engine when the vehicle is not in motion. In other words, the car is stationary with the engine running. Meaning, in this case, the diesel truck remains what we call static, right? Yeah, it doesn't move, but the engine is still running. So possibly the engine somehow react with the vapor cloud and therefore cause explosions and fire. Uh, Probably that's the case, right? So that's the overall, right? So that's the story behind it, right? It's probably because of the failure of the sensors, alarm system, poor communication. So that's just it. That's just the factors, or sorry, the cause of the accident. All right. So fun facts: there are 15 fatalities, 115 injuries, and a financial loss exceeding 1.5 billion dollar USD. So this is a lot of money. So let's move on. So this is the layout. All right. So let's move on to the next point, which is the technique to identify hazard elements. So most of you, I guarantee most of you, never heard of this particular technique, right? So this is the name of the technique, Kletz-Type prevention table. So this is the source, so you can further read this technique in this report. So I obtained this technique from this report. So the thing about this technique is you don't actually see this technique in other case study or in other accidents or in other report actually, because if you Google this Kletz-Type prevention table, it will lead you straightly lead you to this report. So this particular technique only has been used once, and which is in this BP Texas refinery accident, only once. So what's unique about this technique is it highlights the possible events, immediate steps to be taken, hazards to avoid, and it also focuses on the management system. So that is the unique thing about this technique, right? Strange, because very rare to see a technique that focuses especially on this particular point, which is the management system. So okay, so let's look at this. Okay, so this is the table which has done based on this accident, the BP Texas refinery accident. So this is the table. So let us look at one example. So let's take the third example, right? This one. So the event is a vapor cloud forms and expand across refinery, right? So that is the event. So what Excuse me. Okay, so what immediate steps that can be taken? Sound the alarm. When you sound the alarm, it will alert all the workers, all the staff working at the refinery. So how do we avoid hazards in the future? We can install disaster alarm system. So in terms of the management system, the management can train staff for disaster. So according to the report, the report showed that staff were not properly trained for abnormal situation. So this is the problem, right? So the staff or the workers at the refinery were not properly trained for this kind of situation. Were not properly trained to handle any hazard or any accidents. So that's the thing. So that's the thing about this technique. Focuses on the management system because I think we could all agree that management system is the number one role in making sure everyone's safety is in good hands, making sure every worker's safety is guaranteed, right? So let us look at another example. Let us look at the process, right? In terms of the process. So this one, liquid fed to tower causes boiling, liquid level rises to 43 meters, sensor shows decline. So this is the example of the failure of the sensor. So the liquid level rises to 43 meters, which is uh, beyond the limit, beyond the liquid level, beyond the required level. So what are the immediate steps? So there is no immediate steps. You might be asking why there is no immediate steps. To be honest, I'm not quite sure, but possibly, probably, you might be thinking, why not just stop the whole process? We cannot stop the whole process. Or why don't we just stop that particular section or that particular part? Also cannot, because it could affect the whole isomerization unit, right? It could not only affect the input but also the process and the product, right? It is time consuming, very costly, and it's a waste of time. Okay. So how do we avoid this hazard? We could design location-based temperature detector. All right. So that way, because when there is more liquid being fed into the tower, of course, definitely there will be increase in the temperature. When there is increase in temperature, so if we install this temperature detector, we could detect a rise in temperature. So that way, we could know that there is an excessive amount of liquid being flowed into that tower, right? So in terms of the management system, of course, regular equipment's inspection and repairs. So this is also very important. Okay. This is very important for the staff or for the operators to inspect all the equipment, all the tools, all the machines or instrument, right? Whether they're in good condition or not. Also, do any repairs if there's any damage. Okay, so that is the more or less the example of this Kletz-Type prevention table. Okay, right. So let's move on to the application of safety concept in the design of a chemical plant. So what are the so how do we actually design a more safety and reliable chemical plant? So based on this accident, right? Based on this event, I think I personally think these are the three important points or three important features that need to be considered when designing a chemical plant, right? So the first one being is the safety procedure or the safety protocol. So all the staff, all the it doesn't matter whether you are manager, senior manager, or even the CEO, right? So any workers, regardless of position, should know the safety protocol, right? Everyone should know how to avoid hazard, how to assess any risk. So it doesn't matter whether by reading a safety manual or by or by proper training, which is the second point, right? So through the second point, which is the proper trainings, could also provide you a better understanding of the safety protocol. So again, so because according to the report, stated that the staff were not properly trained for abnormal situation. So that's why it is very crucial for the management to have a proper training and proper class for every staff, for every worker, so that they are well aware on how to manage such accident, to avoid or to identify hazard elements, and to evaluate or assess any risk. Right? Proper training is very, very important. So the third point is inspect all the tools, safety equipment, chemicals, and machines to ensure their fulfillment of the requirement is based on check design by HAZOP. We are very familiar. I hope you guys are familiar that HAZOP has what it calls has given out the standard or the checklist on how to inspect or how to evaluate the uh, the 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 uh, the aspect that I've mentioned, which is the features that I mentioned, which are the tools, safety equipment, chemicals, and machines. So how do we inspect or how do we evaluate this in terms of their safetiness and their quality, right? So there is a checklist provided by HAZOP. Oh, I'm actually very, very, very thirsty, yeah, but I don't have any water. It doesn't matter. Oof. Alright, so all the features aforementioned should not only be designed to alert potential danger, but also to completely eliminate those hazards. Also, this is, of course, very important. Alright, so these three points, three features should not only alert potential danger, but it is better, right? It is better if this these features can totally eliminate any hazards. So that way we can create a chemical plant that is more safety and reliable. All right. So in conclusion, so what can we conclude? So based on the previous case study, we have looked at four different types of techniques to identify hazard elements, right? So just for summary, so there are four techniques. Of course, the first one being is the hierarchy, right? So hierarchy highlights the factors that may risk workers that are susceptible to accidents and identify possible hazards that may occur under any circumstances and conditions, as well as enable workers to plan, organize, and monitor preventive measures against the risk of occupational injury. All right, so that is for hierarchy. The second technique is HAZOP. Again, of course, we are very familiar with HAZOP. HAZOP is a complex method used to identify problems during the early stages of project development and identify potential hazards in the existing system. All right, the third one, the PSSR, right? The one presented by Mr. Azri, right? So this technique is to help ensure that adequate safety measures are in place and are operational before a new chemical is stored or the current chemical inventory is modified. So lastly, last technique that I've just presented to you, Kletz-Type prevention table helps workers to plan safety measures that can be instantly done, and assessment on management to improve working environment. So these are four techniques that we have discussed in our presentation. All right. So before we end our presentation, I just would like to say a few things. So accidents, right? Accidents, we of course we can never predict. Accidents can occur unexpectedly and unintentionally, right? So we can never predict any. We can never predict when the next accident will come. So it is better for a company to know more than one technique to identify or to assess risk or hazard. All right. So if let's say a company knows, let's say a company knows these four techniques, right? I think I can guarantee that less accidents will occur. All right. So I think it's also it's very important for a company to know the techniques to prevent or to identify hazards, so that to not only improve the working environment but also to make sure the workers' safety is guaranteed. Right. So I think that's all from me. That's all from my team. I hope you understand. And if there's any question, you can DM me or you can DM any of my members. Right. That's all from us. Thank you.